What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my video. And today we started with a little bit of a downtrend, and I found this trend line. I copied it, put it to the bottom. You guys can see it fits nicely. We're working lower. We have a first break of this trend line, and you guys can see price action rules work to the T. We have a first leg to a new low, pullback, second leg to a new low. So after this break and a new low, this downtrend has played out, and it was natural for us to be looking for a correction. But this is way too early. This is like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, so this is way too early for me taking any trades. But it's good to find these trend lines, to identify what the market has been doing, to kind of get the feel what the traders were trading. And we have a tiny little break and a move to a new high, and we have a first entry long that failed, but this is not really entry according to our rules. This is not a high probability entry, but you guys can see this is very tiny little break. So when I saw this live, I was still thinking we might have a legit break and a legit new high, because this is very tiny. A lot of people could easily miss this, so I treated this as a correction. We have this one leg down lower, and this is a perfect example how market moves in twos. And I guarantee you it's very close to being a measured first leg, pullback, second leg, very close to being measured. So this is a two-legged pullback right here. And once I saw these two swings right here, this is where I draw this trend line. But it is really, even though this is a two-legged pullback and market moves into, this is a first entry long that failed, pullback, second entry long. And in hindsight, it looks tempting. It looks like a pullback, break and a new low. So this downtrend has played out, and we are still waiting for a new high of this trend, because a lot of people will still continue to be buying this market. But you know, hindsight is always 20/20, and there is no way for us to go long here. So excuse me, this was just the point that set up the trend line. And I advise you to find these trend lines, because these trend lines will help you to find the key entry points, and the key entry points are places where are the highest probability setups possible. So you definitely have to find these trend lines, because they will give you a key entry points and they work well. So you guys can see we pull back a little bit, new high right here, first entry long, pull back, second entry long, but we triggered above a horrible bearish bar, so we have to let this one go. And then you had this nice bullish bar off the key entry point, third touch of this trend line. So this is definitely a valid entry. You can see each high is higher than the previous high, so this is a good sign that a lot of people are still buying. So this is a two-legged pullback to the key entry point according to our rules. Unfortunately, there was no chance for us to get in. You can see tiny little take that happened quickly, and we rallied up sharply, and you can see a lot of institutions were piling in. This is not done by retail traders, so a lot of institutions were jumping at this setup. And unfortunately, you know, you just had to watch it go, because this happened so quickly. But notice how we shoot through the EMA, gigantic bullish bar, and this move was so big and was so steep that, you know, from this point on it turned into legit uptrend. So I was only thinking for any reasons to be looking to go long. And we made this new high right here. We were working lower. We have first entry short, pullback, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. You can see this double bottom at the EMA, and we are at the key entry point. So this is the place where I'm expecting some sort of high probability setup occur, especially after this huge big rally up. So this is the first entry long, second entry long. This is according to our rules, but I wasn't really feeling it going long above this bearish bar, because when I'm going long, I want my signal bars to be as bullish as possible. So once this second bullish bar finished, when we broke above, I put my limit order back when my original limit order would be, and I got filled. You can see prices went much lower. It's still closing above the EMA. This was a very good sign. EMA was holding prices at this one. This is a second entry long. This is a high probability setup according to our rules. You can see market rallied up higher, and you would have had a good runner. And unfortunately, you know, there is no really way to take these long. You're too high on the move. You're basically buying the high of the day, and this is not very the smart move. You always want to wait for the pullbacks to the key entry point, because those are the high probability setups. So you just keep working high. You have first entry long right here, second entry long, but you're quite far away from EMA, and you're going long into this you know, tiny little resistance, and you're just at the high of the day. So this is where a lot of people will get tripped up. The reason why I like this trade, and I'm gonna talk about this pattern a little bit more, because I like the fact, and this is a fairly common trap that a lot of beginners will fall into, is when it's looking like you should have went long right here, prices barely make it, then they make a short trap, and you can see how gigantic this bearish bar was, and a lot of people were selling this bar because they thought that they're probably trading some sort of momentum or some sort of range bars. So they saw this gigantic bar, and a lot of people were selling the market. And it is very similar to setup we had the day before yesterday. This is the setup that I'm talking about. We are working up higher. We had this first attempt to go long, and you can see gigantic bearish bar, and the first bar after that failed, and a lot of novice traders then probably went short one tick below this gigantic bearish bar, because they look at the size of this bar and they're thinking the market is going to reverse, because this bar is gigantic, it's much bigger. This bar engulfs, you know, 5-6 previous bars. So a lot of people piled in, and the market got reversed on them. And this is very similar what happened here. We are trading, you get a first chance to go long, you have a short trap, gigantic bearish bar, and right the next bar after this trap is a big bullish bar. You know that this is the trap that I just showed you earlier. A lot of people starting to short here, and they were wrong. Plus, you're at the EMA, we close above the EMA, so once again, key entry point, and you can see there's some small support holding prices. So, and everything is up, so you're not looking to short anything. You can see how EMA is pulling up higher. We are in this clear uptrend. So I'm just looking for reasons to go long. And this may seem this is why it's such a good trap, because after such a big bearish bar, if you look at the right side of the chart, to a lot of novice traders, they're very scared of going long right after on the next bar, because they see the previous bar was so big and the bearish momentum was so big, but that's just a trap. They just trapped a lot of people, and this is always very suspect. When you see such a gigantic bearish bar in an uptrend, always this is a good opportunity to go long right after above it. So this is a little bit more advanced setup, and I'm glad we had a similar setup right here. I really hope you guys can see it, what I'm talking about. We're working up higher, you get this, and it's usually followed by support, and you actually it happened right here as well. There's a little bit support forming. This is the first attempt to go long, and it instantly sold off. Big trap, gigantic bar. It is looking like it's gonna continue working lower, but no, the next bar is a bullish reversal bar. So this is a good trap, just like it happened right here. And so I just draw the short-term trend line, but because I'm still waiting, this is a still uptrend, so I'm waiting for prices to get to my key entry points, for second entries at my key entry points, because I want to take the highest probability setups I can. So we have a break, few legs to a new low, but we're kind of in the middle of this two-tier channel working up higher. We are below EMA, we're not close here. Yeah, you are at this support, but I don't really like this that much. Once again, hindsight looks good, but when you're watching this live, you need to, you know, take all things into consideration. And I just want to take the highest probability setups as I can. And you can see first entry short, second entry short, and another pullback lower that failed. And it was very tempting to go long here, or even here, because you're kind of getting close to this key entry point. But notice how there was this tiny little congestion. And I always keep telling you guys, you got to stay away from small little congestions. This is a small little trading range, small little consolidation. You can see EMA is completely flat. It's in the middle of those bars. This is like 10 bars going side by side, stacked next to each other. There's no room up or down. So just because it worked here, just keep this trade, because this is a congestion, and you get a nice breakout pullback. You obviously, you know, I teach you guys to fade the breakouts of these congestions, but you need to use common sense, because we are in a gigantic uptrend and you cannot fade the breakout lower. It probably would have worked for a scalp, as you can see, but you know, we're just looking for reasons to go long. So just because the fading the breakouts work, you also have to use the market context as a whole in, you know, to your consideration. If we broke lower, that would be a no-brainer long. This is what actually I was sort of looking, I was hoping, sort of fell break lower below this congestion at the key entry point, 99% win percentage trade would be right here, but unfortunately we didn't get this. We get a breakout pullback, nice bullish reversal bar, EMA is holding prices, this support, this resistance is now acting as a support. You know, very good indication that a lot of people will be continuing buying this market. And the next few trades, well, actually, let me mark that this is where I had my loser today. One and only loser today. You have a first entry long pullback, second entry long at the EMA. So I'm going to mark it as well because it is according to our rules. We close above the EMA. I was just starting to be a little bit afraid that we're suspiciously far away from this trend line. And I was expecting, you know, prices make a little bit of pullback. So this is a two-legged pullback, first entry long, second entry long to the trend, to the key entry point EMA. This is why we have the EMA in play, big bullish bar. I was probably way too cautious when I was trading this because, you know, you really should be just looking for reasons to go long. This is such a strong uptrend. And prices are working up higher. And once again, you have to draw these short-term trend lines. They will keep you on the right side of the market. They will give you so much advantage. We have a break, new low right here. And this is when finally you have a nice setup. You have tiny little break lower. You have a stem, you're bouncing off the key entry point, and you have a nice quick scalp. And you guys can see we actually we have a double top right here forming. But this was at this point on, this was just the first break of this bigger uptrend. And this uptrend was so strong. This is just the first entry, and I was expecting instant retest to new extreme. But this is why you guys have to trade the market you get and not the market you want, because this was just the first entry and I didn't give it enough room. And you have right here this double top right here. So not surprising that the trade failed because I went long way too early on the first entry. I was just playing in the odds that we may retest the new high. And it looks like we barely retested or came very close. Quite unusual to not have a retest of a new extreme on such a big uptrend like this. It may happen later on or it may happen tomorrow. But because I looked at the daily chart and, you know, the market on daily chart is fairly bullish. So this is why I was up to buying everything as I can. So you guys can see, hopefully you guys can see how important it is to wait for prices to get to key entry point. This trade was so easy and such a high probability setup. You have this downtrend working lower, you have a break and a new low. So at this point on, this downtrend played out and you can be safely looking to go long. And once again, you have to draw the short-term trend lines working the other side. And you have a first entry short, pullback, second entry short at the key EMA, at the trend line, because this is the third confirmation of this trend line. But this was such a strong uptrend on the left side that, you know, it was very tempting to take this trade. But I mean, you never know. This was such a strong uptrend. Shorting the market just a few minutes after such a strong rally up, you know, I don't really recommend this. You can get burned easily. But this was a second entry short. Once again, high probability setup according to our rules. And you're working lower. And this was the setup that I wanted to take. Unfortunately, I didn't get filled because it happened too quickly. You have a first entry long pullback, first entry short pullback, second entry short. This is the first break of this downtrend. So according to our rules, what's most likely going to happen, you guessed it, a break and a retest of a new extreme. You have a first entry long, pullback, second entry long that failed. And we're still closing below the EMA. So this is why I dropped my limit order and I didn't get filled. But I was looking at the break and a new low to make a new low. And this is two attempts to go higher. But the EMA is holding prices each time we are at the key entry point. All the reasons to go short here, according to our rules. So we have a break and a new low. And then we went into this mess, which I really recommend staying away from, because, you know, God knows what can happen here, and a lot of people will get chopped into pieces right here. Of course, there is a trend line that I was eyeballing at the time, but which you have a break and a new high, and we went into this trading range. But I don't really recommend trading this. You can see a lot of stems and the bars are getting way too big. just market went into this consolidation, which is very common after rally like that. So, but the price action still works. Once again, you have to draw the short-term trend lines. You have this break and new low, so you are expecting a reversal or possibly correction. So you shoot through the EMA, so this is a good sign, first good sign over reversal. You make a first pullback, they set up the trend line, first entry short, second entry short, you're working up higher. You have this break and a new low. Actually, you wouldn't have a new low. Let me see, you would have, because this high seem higher a little bit than this one. So you have a bounce off the key entry point right here. You have a break, you have a new high, but you know, there's a lot of stems. The bars are starting to stack next to each other and looks very odd. You know, I wasn't trading at this time because, you know, once we went into this consolidation, you know, I mean, the rules still apply. You buy the lows, you sell the highs, you fade the breakouts, just as I teach you. But after such a good day and you had plenty easy trades to find, I mean, you would be madman to trade this consolidation, this trading range. But it is a valid, you know, the strategy. You can see each breakout failed, just as I teach you, because most of these breakouts will fail. But just a reminder, this pattern, very efficient pattern, a little bit advanced, but a good pattern nevertheless. And yeah, finding the trend line, the key entry point, was key for the day. And my only loser for the day got a little bit of jump to gun too early. Yeah, this is a mess. Nevertheless, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A little bit rushed this one a little bit, not perfect video, but what can you do? Hopefully I see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.